let's let's rock. And what I'd like to start out with is introduce myself as Mark Ehrlichs, and um, thanks, Lynn. uh, hashtag you rock for you guys. Good, good, good. And hey, Christina, good to see you here. Give Steve my love. Yay. And Patty says hello too. And uh, Mark Ehrlichs, and I'm a healer by the grace of God. This is what I do in my life. Hey, Teresa, thanks for watching. Thanks for being here. A lot of my friends are here. It's awesome. All right. Um, First of all, I want to express that I do have appointments by telephone. That's the way I'm seeing people, either through the voice or on Zoom. If you can Zoom me a link, I'll have an appointment with you if it's prearranged. And also, Lynn's going to be teaching me. Hey, Jason, good to see you. Lynn's going to be teaching me how to do Zoom by myself. And thank you for that, Lynn. I appreciate that when it does happen. And then, let's see, besides the appointments, they're really awesome, whether in person or now they're by telephone or Zoom and or Facebook. And hi, Connie, good to see you here. Thanks for being here. Karen, hi, hi, hi. Good to see you all. We'll probably be getting several more people in the room now. And so the appointments are by telephone are available through Zoom or otherwise, Facebook, or by regular just voice. And Lynn will supply all the numbers, please, for that, Lynn, to contact me. And then I want to, let's see, next week we also have the online healing circle on the 7th at night. Hey, Stephen, good to see you. So at 7 o'clock, my time, and that'll be a Zoom call. Well, we'll be able to see everyone, and it'll be on online healing circle or work with people. And most, if not all, people will actually experience something happening as I do work with you. The energies, just an act of God. They come forth and they touch people. And most people can sense something happening inside of them. Or I'll ask a blessing on you. I'll ask for one thing that is, happening with you. And then that's on the, I believe it's Tuesday, the 7th, at 7 o'clock my time, is the online healing circle. Then on Monday the 6th, Tuesday the 7th, Wednesday the 8th, Thursday the 9th, and Friday the 10th, all week long for an hour each day, we're having a workshop. The cost is going to be $250, and it's going to be on experiential healing and introduction. It's going to be intense, as all workshops are, regardless whether they're introductions or extremely advanced, it doesn't matter. And we're literally going beyond the mindset of healing yourself and others, physically and emotionally. So we're going to be getting into the remembrance of the soul experience in other times and places when you had varying degrees of the abilities to work with healing. And we're going to help you to remember and to find the ease in a lot of this stuff. Hi, Diana Janik. Good to see you. And thanks for being here. And everyone has the ability to use it. Not everyone this time, this life, but we all have it within us. It's innate ability. And the ones that do have it more predominantly, it's their place in this life, whether it be for several people working with, or whether it be just for your family, or meeting someone on the street, or just understanding the ability of it and the understandings of it. We all have it to varying degrees. And so, and I'll help you to tap into this and to find the ease of this. And in the first class, we'll be having a introduction discussion, interactive discussion, excuse me, on what spiritual healing is through my perspective, and just to gain a greater understanding of the intuitive perceptions as well. And it'll be an hour each day, and on the fifth day, we'll get into questions and answers and other dialogue, and that will lead into another class. But this one will be for the 5 days. And the first day is the understandings of it, and my understanding what spiritual healing is and where it's from within us. And we'll open, learning to open up our sight and our imagination. And there'll be exercises that will be assigned so you can practice very simply. And then on the second class, we'll be working with the energies that you're intuiting. And we'll get into a little understanding of that and how you can develop that within yourself. And again, exercises will be available for you. Then, and you can practice these things. And as you do practice any of these things, though, you'll see that they develop within you. And you'll see how easy they really are and how easy spiritual healing really, truly is. And so then in the third class, we'll begin working with various applications on healing yourself and others. And in the fourth, we'll continue to work with the various applications and expanding upon them. And we'll also be working with what I call the timelines. And these timelines represent the age of physical or emotional incidents of a person's life. And most things that we'll be working with if we should decide to work with another person. It will show you approximately the age that something did happen, and you may get a sight of what it is. It'll start, or it'll begin to come upon you. And as you practice, you'll see that what you're seeing as it comes upon you is a piece of a story of that person's life. So you'll see that all this is pretty real, and that you do have the abilities, and not to fret if you don't have something happen right away. It will develop within you. It's inevitable. If it's been a part of your life, which it has, you'll see that it's still a part of your life to varying degrees. And you're just opening the doors again for it. And people will walk away with exercises to help, you develop your abilities in healing and working with yourself and others, which is really important, I feel. I feel that's our place in life. Or else you wouldn't be attracted to this in the first place, or even, attracted to coming here and what is this about and finding out. So you're learning basically how to change the destructive into what I refer to as constructive, and the various energies in working. And you're developing the empowering thoughts during this time so that you can find calm within yourself. You can find a balance amidst the chaos, and you can understand or get a greater understanding in developing the ability to focus, which is what everything is really about anyway. And I'll help you to fall into this easily according to your needs, and you'll see that it's just very applicable in your life. And whether it be working with healing in person with a person or in thought with a person. Everything leads into that. Healing is not just one way. Healing is many, many ways. And the mind is the majority of it. And so I'll teach you how to work with that and use that as an application in your life with other people. Hi, Leo and Sherry. Good to see y'all. Thanks for being here, my friends. So this is for anyone who's striving to learn more about themselves, and I welcome you to participate in that class. Again, it's going to be Monday through Friday, and Lynn will make the announcement of the hours and put the link up and everything else. Thank you, Lynn. I appreciate that. And so here we have, the ability to access these things. And I thank you ahead of time for wanting to do that. So, let me see here. We have some questions from people. Again, don't forget about the appointments, please. So, in any case, Sue, my dear friend, she wrote, many types of alternative healings have self-help protocols. What is it for spiritual healing? Now, Sue's been hanging out with me for, oh my God, maybe 10 years now, going to all the classes, and same with a lot of people. They're always learning, and so am I during this whole process. And I just want to welcome Sue here, if she is here. Otherwise, she'll get a replay of this. I know she enjoys those. And my answer to Sue, as far as, the protocols, I think that self-help is always, just always, always good. And I'm also in the belief and understanding that how can we possibly even attempt or attempt to help another person unless we can help ourselves first. Otherwise, it's like two people going down. And so the understanding Sue is going for, I think, is how to prepare. Well, I guess for the past 45 plus years now, the only preparation I've ever needed was to trust in what I call God, the light, and its infinite mind. That's everything to me. Sure, there's things that we can do for ourselves to take care of you. It's all normal that we have to do these things for ourselves, like eating what we feel we know is okay for us, for our body, breathing good air, exercising according to our needs without overextending or injuring ourselves, and getting enough sleep, that we're rested whenever you awaken. I think everything else is, in what a lot of people are taught for preparations, are superfluous chatter. I think everyone is different. It has different patterns and preferences according to what they set those patterns and preferences to. Not everyone is going to be like you or what you currently think is right for you. And remember, though your mind, and through your mind, I should say, your mind and body is always changing and always redeveloping and always evolving and growing. And so, and most often, it's your body is trying to regenerate. So please keep that in mind. And a more direct question, direct answer to Sue's question is, yes, it's always good to learn to become, I say, quiet prior to seeing someone in an appointment or even starting out in your day. Thanks for watching, Cindy. Reiki Tree, good to see ya. Good to see ya. And so, and please don't forget, hey Dana, and please don't forget, to take care of yourself, and relax as much as you want, enjoy yourself. Excuse me, I always go hoarse. And take it easy as much as you can in your life. And not to necessarily accept pressures. They're so unnecessary. And it's always good to become quiet prior to seeing with someone in an appointment or even starting out in your day. I think that's extremely important. If it's going to be working with someone, then the quietness is the most important. It's in that quietness that we begin to commune with that greater mind, whether we're cognizant of it or not. And the more cognizant of it we are, the greater. And it's in that quietness that we begin to commune in that greater mind. So please keep that in mind. And we can ask about a person even. And we can ask if the person we're going to have an appointment with, what they're about. And even if we don't know them or we know them, either way, we'll get information as we're objectively observant in that quietness. And we can even ask how we might approach being able to help them. And we'll get an answer. We can even ask what the outcome could be. And we'll get an answer of what that person's perfection is more like. We can find these things out. It's no different than when we're contemplating. In the shower, say we're actually, all of a sudden, we were wondering about something. We find ourselves contemplating and we're getting an answer. No different. And the answer is coming from somewhere. It's coming from yourself, being shared with us, because we're open for it while we're busy in the shower washing off, or when we're doing dishes. It's available to us. It's shared with us. When we're doing something, when we're contemplating as we're doing something, you'll see this. Hey, Steve, good to see you here. And so we can ask a question prior to working with someone. It's always there, always available to us. And those are the preparations, I think. Eating, sleeping right, doing whatever's correct for you. But what is correct for you may not be what's necessarily correct for someone else. So you have to find your own patterns. You have to find your way. And that's what it's really about. That's the preparation. My friend Lindsay, she asked me a question. I'm finding it hard to think of a question. Hey, Michelle, good to see you here. Thanks for being here. I'm finding it hard to think of a question. Everything seems on hold. It seems stagnant. With the quarantines and the spread of fear and disease, maybe you could talk to us about times of stagnation and what they mean and how we can move through them. I think that's a great question too. So, hi Lindsay, and thanks for the question. And in my understanding and my perceptions, nothing's on hold or stagnant. I think that's that hold and stagnant feeling that we feel and that we see around us and that we perceive in every way is just a sabotage of what I refer to as the mass mind, and that it's dictating in many people's lives, mainly because they want a leader. I don't believe that stagnant and hold exists in my life. And people are learning to listen to their real self in another way. And so the mind of fear, which is regulates the mass mind, in my perceptions, is that the mind of fear comes in because it knows that we're going to the other side, that it knows that we're beginning to perceive of self within, which is our evolution, which is what we're about. And so the mass mind is going to want to sabotage and have us believe uh, what what it wants us to believe, to get away from evolving, get away from knowing ourself. And so it's trying to influence us, that's all. And so it's trying to influence you not to do so, not to go to that other side. See, the mass mind, to me, is the mind of fear. And it's like a little child. And it's always wanting your attention. It's always pulling on your pants legs. And it's always trying to distract you when you are at a good place. It will immediately show you something that's destructive or what you call negative. And it's going to try to distract you from being you. And it's going to show you the side that is the destructive side that doesn't want you to grow. And that's what the mass mind does. That's what the mind of fear does. Fear in itself is simply a very simple consciousness. It doesn't know otherwise but itself. And so when it sees you growing or learning or having a good time or whatever, it's going to come in through the highways and the byways of your mind and your thinking and try to sabotage you, to pull it to it. But the neat thing is, even though it wants your attention during those times, it knows nothing else but its simple consciousness, like the child. But to move through these times is to be conscious of these times. The more conscious you are of them, the less often they are there. Please understand, the less often they are there, the more conscious you are of them. But they'll always be there to try to grab us back into the throes of chaos and destruction, because that's what they only know. That's the mind of fear. But the more we know of them, the less effect they have on us. When we're more purposefully conscious of them, we can simply say to, say, the idea or the thought, oh, I see you. And if you don't run from it, but observe it, if you don't resist it, but just observe it, if we don't feel yucky about it, but just observe that thought, then its life quickly ends, and we see and know, we truly see and we know that there's nothing to be afraid of, and that it was just a thought, and it has no effect on us as we objectively observe. Remember, as you begin thinking again is when you fall into the throes of the mind again. When you begin thinking again is when you go into the throes of the mind again, that mass mind. It's really no different than in meditating again, or contemplating about something to find an answer or an understanding that comes to us, or something we didn't know prior to our contemplation or meditation. But then it's like we woke up, and then that contemplation and meditation stops until we go back to it. And that only tells us that we need to do this more often. So, but as we do practice these things more often and become conscious of the throes of the mass mind, that's when we get to perceive those things less and less and further in between. They're less destructive to us. So I hope that helps and answers your question. And that was a good question, Lindsay. And Kathy, my friend, she wrote, "Silence. A thought without words, is it possible?" And I wrote, "Hi, Kathy. Oh my gosh, yes." It's very possible. And the words in a thought are, now listen to this, this is neat. The words in a thought are impressions that come to us before we speak. The words in a thought are impressions to us that come to us before we speak. The thoughts form the words before we say them. The thoughts actually form the words before we say them, based upon our environment and our moods and our feelings and emotions. We can have a thought and then objectively observe it. We can actually have a thought and objectively observe it. Then we can see that we can change the words that weren't finite or set in stone. Nothing set in stone. But one form of silence is also observing the words and what they are meant to represent. Then we're not having all the clatter in our head and clutter. Then we choose different words. When we're in that silence, observing, because in the act of observation, there are no words yet. Then we get to choose different words or pictures in our head to express. The wonderful thing about this is, oftentimes, is we have less to say, because what we do say then carries more meaning and less is needed. Please understand that. And if you try this often and practice that, it develops an empowerment and it gets easier. And you'll see that empowerment carries meaning and healing and helps others to relate in what we're expressing. Because again, people would not be able to relate without pictures, the pictures that we're relating to. And the words wouldn't have a meaning or an understanding without pictures. So when we speak, if we speak more purposefully with wondering what the pictures mean and putting words to them, we would speak less often and the pictures would have more of a meaning to someone else if we were more purposeful in that act. I hope you can try that in practice. I hope that makes sense. We don't speak without pictures, in other words. So, but the more purposeful in our words, the more empowerment they carry. My friend Diana, she wrote, "Are there any thoughts on the virus?" Of course. And there's a exercise that I practice, and it seemed, for me, it works. And so the exercise that I practice is whenever I have a thought, even consciously or subconsciously within me, if I can try to grab that thought, the deeper it is, even before anything, as soon as I see or I perceive of a thought of any distress or cold or flu, I see it as I'll picture it within myself, and then I see it as it's coming in me or already within me, and then I picture it leave me as a fume. And I've mentioned this before, and it seems to work with me. I've used this now for 47 years, and I think I had a cold once, and that was, or twice, and one time was purposeful. I think they both were, but one time for sure was purposeful. And when I used to get them every quarter, and I said, "What is this for?" "Hello, Bobby. Good to see you here." And so what I've learned to do, and it takes practice at first, but then I realize that it's happening more often. I can see now whenever a thought is embedded within me that might be stagnant there, or just hanging out there, and I don't know how it got there, of a cold or a flu or the virus. I see it leaving me as soon as I perceive of that thought, or when I might be talking about it. I'm accepting it, and I watch it leave me as a fume, where it no longer exists within me. And maybe in one day I'll do it 50 times when I'm out in public, and or at home, or wherever. So I'm conscious of it all the time. I'm always conscious of that, and especially now more than ever. Otherwise, no one's exempt from it. And I'm not exempt from it either, but this is what I utilize as my tool. So, these things I utilize, and it's a tool to use. And I've told this story before, and I'll share it again. Many, many years ago, when I was living in the order house in, I believe it was Fort Worth, there was this, it was a Saturday, and I thought I'd go up to the chapel and do a little prayer and meditation. So I walked up there. I didn't think anyone was going to be in there, and I opened up the door real quietly, of course, and I walked in, and there was Brother David. "Hey, Mariko, good to see you here. All the way from Japan. Thank you." And there's Brother David kneeling before the altar saying, "Oh God, cleanse me, cleanse me." And he's praying and saying it out loud, and I figured, I don't want to hear this. And so I kind of backed out, closed the doors real quietly, and left. And Brother David always had a cold. Always had a cold. And I'd known him for many, many months in that order house. So Brother David's walking into the hallway downstairs later that day, and there were 3 entrances into the hallway from different rooms. And I was walking in one way, almost at the hallway, and then the priest was coming in through another entrance, and he said to Brother David, "Brother David, how come you always have a cold?" And I stopped cold where I was, and Brother David was looking at him and didn't know how to answer him. He said, "I don't know." And then the priest walked away. And I just thought, wow, that was strange. And then I went on with my day. The next day, Brother David didn't have a cold for the first time ever. And I said, wow. And then I started remembering the conversation of the priest asking David, "How come you always have a cold?" So something happened there. And it was through the priest's word, and through his knowing, and made him conscious of that. And then I remembered David up in the chapel, just almost prostrate and saying, "Oh my God, cleanse me, God, cleanse me." So the cleansing was the cold. And I figured, okay, I've always had a cold, so maybe I can do this with myself too. Every quarter of the year, I've always had a cold. So the quarter came around, and I didn't have a cold next time, but I felt the symptoms inside of me, but I didn't have the symptoms of the runny nose, the sore throat, the headache, or watery eyes, or anything else. I said, wow, this is great. I love this. So for about 10 years, I lived that way, 10 or 15 years without a cold externally, but internally I had one. And then I thought about that one day, and I said, well, wait a second. why do I have to accept this within myself having symptoms? And so I, um, I said, I don't accept this anymore. I don't want to know that anymore in my life. And having symptoms, I just totally accepted that. And from then on, I didn't have a cold outside or inside myself. And I used it for other discomforts in my body and stuff like that, and it seemed to work. And so then one day I was walking, I was on an escalator in Nashville going down, and it was wintertime, and there was this big dude behind me, and he sneezed right on my neck. And I said, oh my God, I got the cooties. And it was from that night on, I knew I was going to get a cold, but I figured, oh, I can handle this, no sweat. And so I started getting sicker and sicker and sicker. And I said, I can't handle this anymore. And I was the biggest baby in the world. But I said, okay, I just don't want this. And it started to go. And it was that next day that it left, thank God. So, but then for another 15 or so years, I didn't have a cold anymore. Because I kept seeing it as the thought, not embellishing in me, itself in me, or not attaching itself to me, and it's in the consciousness that I accept it. So I would see it as a fume, and as that fume, it would leave, and not being able to attach itself to me or within me. And I realize also that, hey Heather, good to see you. And I also realize that also it was through my thinking that I allowed it. And at least most time, I don't know about all the time, but most time, it was my thinking that even in hating something, that's when I'm accepting it. So when we dislike something so much, it's still a part of us in our lives. That's what I've had to learn, and I'm still learning to work with in my life, and I see it as not a part of me in my life. So we can do these things, and I feel I'm able to have this experience to share with you that you too can do this. Anyone can do this. And I've shared this with many people, and I've seen it happen with many people, that they too don't have to accept these things anymore in their lives. So, any case, I say be of the mind, and sure, and be careful, not to be of the mind of arrogance, because then we're challenging it in a sense when we're arrogant, and we find it coming upon us. We haven't really done anything then. Excuse me. At the same time, in my life, I also recognize my life in God, and that's real to me. I know that I live within this great mind that's super subconscious, and it has this unfathomable intelligence, and so that's my life. That's what I choose to accept, and I try to live it when I'm conscious of it, and I'm not always, and so, but when I am, I'm there, and so in emergent times, I also know that I go to it, and it has this unconditional love for me, as it does for everyone. No one's any greater or lesser than anyone else, and it's a part of us, and we're alive because of it and in it. We're alive because of it and in it at the same time. We're enmeshed in it, and it's enmeshed in us. It's never forgotten us. This mind's alive and well within us, and around us. So I don't blame anyone else for being fearful, not at all. or afraid. Nor is it my attempt to tempt God in what I refer to as God, or the universal mind, or the creator, or the nameless one, whatever you want to call it. It doesn't care. It doesn't care. It's not my attempt to tempt it in any way. I don't use that as a superstition. I only trust. And I really don't expect others to be like me, but everyone has this within them. Everyone. Or else we wouldn't be alive. We wouldn't have the ability to not worry if we weren't a part of this. And all this is what we choose to know of ourselves. That's what it's really about. It's what we choose to know about ourselves. And in the past, the divinities come through for me. And it never hasn't. Every word, every thought, every action, as I always preach to everyone, every word, every thought, every action is literally our living prayer. And our prayers do get answered the more we know that they do. And that's the secret, is the knowing. And I've been, I know that the divinities come through for me. I've been many a time. And I've been subject to. Hey, Gail, good to see you. Don't forget, everyone, we do have the replay right when this is finished, about a minute or two afterwards. And so the divinities always, come through for me in the past from various, I know, very contagious bacterial infections, viral contagions, being exposed to them. And so it's about walking my walk and talking the talk. And this is about what I teach. And it's about me too. I'm no different than anyone else. We all have this within us. And so please, replay this. Try to get into the words if you can. And so, let's see. Many people are, I believe, are afraid to even, I guess, be outside. And they want to stay home. And so that's fine, but if you can, get fresh air. And be sure to eat, what's good for your body. Not everyone is the same. Some people like almond M&Ms, and that's their nourishment. And some people like Snickers bars, and some people like coffee, and that's fine. It's good for them. And it may not be good for someone else, though, whatever you're setting yourself up for. All right. So, please, again, I want to mention that we do have this fantastic class coming up next week. It's on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, an hour each day. It'll be at, I believe, noon my time. Lynn, can you please, Lynn's the hub of the operation for everything here. Can you please post the information for the workshop coming up? Let people know about it. And if she doesn't right away, she will soon after on the Facebook pages and stuff. Hey, Kathy, good to see you, my dear. You too. Good, you too. Please, there is a replay if you missed any of this. And there'll be other people watching it later as well. And, please, there it is, the experiential healing introduction. Lynn has it down. And it is $250, and it'll all be through PayPal, and it's going to be awesome. And I'll help you to get to know yourself. That's what it's about, and to be able to be available for other people as well. Please, any questions I can try to answer. We're 10 minutes early here before we quit. And anyone would like to say anything, please, or make any comments, or ask questions, please, about anything. I'm out of questions. Um, there was someone else that, let me see if I can find it here. Oh, let me see here. Um, Let me see. Oh, well. Joyce Artist. She said she sent me a question with no response. I don't see the question anywhere, Joyce. Please, if you can do it, I'll answer your question this time or next time for Joyce Artist. And I would love to answer your question. I apologize for not answering it. And don't forget the Healing Circle, please. That's coming up this coming Tuesday at 7 o'clock at night, my time, Mountain Daylight Time. I'm in the Boulder, Colorado area. So Chicago's going to be 1 hour later, and the East Coast is going to be 2 hours later in Canada. Ottawa is going to be 2 hours later. Japan, I think, is 6 or 8 hours, Marika. And so you're going to, Japan's going to have a late time if you want to come onto the Healing Circle, which I would love you to be there, Marika. And let's see, in the Arizona's an hour earlier, and California I think is I don't know if it's 2 hours earlier or what, but I'll work with people during the Healing Circle at night, that night, and most people tell me, that something's happened with them in their life, and that's all that matters to me. Tamara, I like what you said a few weeks ago. When I am conscious of coming into my mind, I can consciously watch it leave. Yes, 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 and you can too. Oh, Lynn, you said 6:30. I thought we talked about that today at 7. But if it's at 6:30, follow what Lynn says. She knows. I'm kind of a space cadet on this right now. Well, check the events within this group for more details. Smart. Thanks, Lynn. So, all right. I'm very thankful that y'all were here and that you asked me these questions or made statements or whatever. And please, this is every week, the gathering. And please do feel free to ask more questions or make more statements for me to comment on. I would love that. And I'll try to give you answers from my heart and everything that is within me. And I'll share with you. Thanks again, everyone. 7 as the gathering. Okay, Lynn, thanks. And 6:30 is the Healing Circle, my time, Mountain Daylight Time. And so, again, thank you for being here. I'm honored. And so I guess we're going to sign off with no more questions. Blessings to you all. And please, in the comment box of this, if you can do hashtag #YouRock, all one word, I would love that. Or hashtag great info, one word. Thank you, Patty. Blessings to everyone here. Thank you so much.